Welcome to Knightline Extra on the award-winning Knightline Sports Network.
Welcome, Knight fans, to another edition of Knightline Extra, found only on the Knightline Sports Network. Our midweek show to get you prepared for the rivalry game. That's right, the Cows of West Tampa, or South Tampa, I don't know. Whoever they are, they're coming to town Friday night, rivalry game. Throw out the books when these guys get together. You never know what'll happen. So it should be a fun game, and to get you ready for it, we got a bunch of action-packed content for you tonight. We've got an insider from that Tampa team. His name is Will Turner. He'll join us to give you a lowdown on what's gone on over there this year so far, and what to expect in the game this week. We've got some sound from Charlie Strong from the American Coaches Conference Call, plus some bonus sound this week from a couple of UCF guys who will be enjoying their final home game. Senior night also falls for this game, so a good opportunity to get back out there and cheer on some of your seniors. And so we got some sound from those guys. UCF Mike from the Sons of UCF will join me. He'll tell you 5 things that you probably already knew about the Cows, but may have forgotten. So we'll share those with you as well. But let's get you oriented on what to expect here. So Cows coming in at 4-7 on the season so far. They just lost a 49-10 tilt at Memphis. They've got some injuries though coming into this game, so you'll hear a little bit more about that coming up with Will Turner, the insider. But Cronkite and Sands, two of their running backs, are going to be out, so they'll be starting a true freshman at running back. Blake Barnett, who started last season, he's not played, and so you'll have a redshirt freshman starting at quarterback. So they've got a couple of guys out, a couple of defensive guys who are banged up as well too. So we'll get into injuries, but the Cows certainly not coming in on a full health. From UCF perspective, obviously we don't get a ton of updates. Tate Gowan did not play against Tulane, and so no update on him at this point. Everybody else that we know about appears to be a full go. So hopefully we'll have a full complement at least on the black and gold side. Should be a packed house at Spectrum. Again, it's an 8 p.m. local time kickoff. It can be found on ESPN if you cannot get to your local Spectrum Stadium there. Obviously, Black Friday game and senior night as well. So make sure you get there early, get a good seat, and send off our seniors. With a nice round of applause, give them the recognition they deserve. These guys have largely been here since 2016 and have been a big part of the renaissance of the program. So make sure you get out there early, cheer on these guys, and let them know how much you appreciate everything they've done for Knight Nation. But coming up next, we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on over there in West Tampa this year. From a record perspective, how's Charlie Strong doing, and what to expect on offense. All that's coming up next when we welcome in an insider only here on the Knightline Sports Network, Knightline Extra.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else, New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Knightline and Knightline Postgame Live. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
Hello, Knight Nation. This is Andrew Phegley reminding you to tune in every Sunday morning, 9 to 10 a.m. on ESPN 580 Orlando for Knightline the morning after. We'll be taking your calls and your texts reacting to the previous week's UCF sports action. Once again, that's Knightline the morning after, every Sunday morning, 9 to 10 a.m. on ESPN 580 Orlando or TuneIn Radio. Go Knights and charge on.
All right, rivalry week. Obviously, we have our rivals from the West coming to town. We keep pretty good tabs on them, I'm sure, and I know a lot of you have read a bunch and follow on Twitter. But let's bring in an expert to give us more insight on what's going on over there in Tampa. So we have Will Turner. He's the publisher of Bulls247.com, and he's been kind enough to join us on the show here. Will, thanks a lot for hopping on, man. How are you?
I've been good. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. So rivalry week. So we'll play nice. I'll play nice. You play nice. Hopefully we can get along during the interview here. But let's start here. So obviously I think coming into the season, a new offensive coordinator for South Florida and Kerwin Bell. Obviously some turnover, but Blake Barnett was coming back, and I think there were some high expectations for the Bulls this season. But they sit here now in 4-7 here coming into the final game. I know it's a kind of a long question, but how did they get here? How did they go from where maybe they thought they'd be to a 4-7 team here coming into the last weekend?
It's again, you say it's a long question. Well, here's a loaded answer, I guess, so to speak. I mean, you come into this season and there's a whole lot of high expectations. That's a perfect way to put it, especially after last year, the way that last year ended, winning 7 straight and then losing 6 straight. There was shakeup on the coaching staff. There are 4 new coaches between the offensive coordinator, defensive line coach, secondary coach. And then, of course, Charlie Strong dismissed 11 players from last year's team. 3 or 4 of them came back. But you have super high expectations. This is the first year of that tough scheduling that USF has really tried to put together. So Wisconsin, week 1, and you're in that game. It's a 7-0 game at the end of the first quarter, and you think maybe there's a chance that USF could put something together. And then, Jonathan Taylor does what Jonathan Taylor does best and scores 4 touchdowns in that game. And then you really start to wonder, okay, well, yeah, maybe just one game. They get shut out. Wisconsin, at that time before they lost to Ohio State, some people saw as a college football playoff contender. So you take that game as an anomaly. Then you go Georgia Tech, and you lose on a bad call that it was kind of dictated by ACC refs. We all know how great those guys are. So you lose that game. Okay, then the quarterback shakeup starts, and then Barnett's benched for Jordan McLeod. And then you go to that South Carolina State game. You win big just to boost them around because you hadn't won since October of 2018. And then SMU comes to town. And then, you lose to SMU. You lose Barnett. Then the injury shakeup starts because of Barnett's high ankle sprain. McLeod gets hurt. And then you go into those next 2. You win 2 straight. Then you lose, and then you look bad against Navy. Then you look like world beaters against ECU. It's just a Jekyll and Hyde kind of thing. And then the last 3 games in particular, Temple, Cincinnati, and Memphis, USF was in both of those Temple and Cincinnati games. The Temple game probably should have been a little bit closer than it was. USF's defense only gave up 10 points on the night. And then Memphis, again, a case where you're up 10-7 at the end of the first quarter and then the rails just come off. So it's a Jekyll and Hyde type of team. You really don't know which is going to show up because they'll look like world beaters against even a BYU that you probably weren't supposed to beat. You look like world beaters against them, and then you get thrashed by someone that looks even decent of a regular opponent. So it's been an interesting but strange season. I've told people several times that this team really could have gotten to 6 wins. I mean, if you look at the Georgia Tech game, and if USF doesn't go 1 for 5 on field goals against Cincinnati, they probably pull off that upset. And then who knows with the Temple game, a lot of different situations that could have played out. But 4-7 is where USF is at right now, and it's been a strange route to get there.
So a lot of people on Twitter, and that's not obviously the best barometer for what's real life, but Charlie Strong seems to be taking the lion's share of the criticism for the season and for the things that you described. You're closer to the program than we are. Is that a fair critique? Is Charlie, in your opinion, the sort of to blame for many or all of these things you're talking about?
Definitely the Temple game and in that situation. I think there's a lot of problems. A lot of the losses stem from bad offensive line play. USF gave up 10 sacks. Memphis, they gave up 4, but they were really bad timing. sacks. When you really needed a first down, you get sacked on back-to-back plays or something like that. So there's been a lot of offensive line play, bad offensive line play rather. Charlie Strong has got, his amount of the blame just as the head coach. There's been a lot of bad time mismanagement things. I'm sure, being on Thursday night, that Temple game, Pat McAfee going, quote, "What the hell are you doing?" Or something of that nature, for when they pocketed 2 timeouts down 10 with, about a minute and a half to go. So it's just a lot of people, especially in the game management situation. Yes, Strong has definitely got a good bit of blame to take, but I think a lot of it falls on the offensive side of the ball. The defense has played lights out for a good majority of this season. Take away the SMU, Wisconsin, Navy, in second half of the Memphis games, and the defense was really, really solid. But I think the offense has got a lot of problems, and I think it falls more on that unit as opposed to Strong. But game mismanagement will lose you more games than anything else. So I think from that category, he's definitely got a lot to shoulder the blame on.
I know this is another loaded question, and I know there's a lot of financial implications, but does Charlie survive this season?
It's hard to tell. It's really hard to tell. 3 weeks ago, I could have told you that he'll be back. Now I'm not so sure, especially with the way that USF looked against Memphis on Senior Day. 49-10 was the final score for those who didn't see it. USF up 10-7. And then, like I said before, they just the rails kind of came off. Memphis scored 21 second quarter points, and Brady White looked unbeatable. And Patrick Taylor had 3 touchdowns in that game. So I think with a loss like that, it's a lot more it's a lot more glaring, especially with the monetary aspects to it, because Strong is, top 20 nationally and highest paid college football coaches. So, and the product that USF is getting right now is 4-7. So I don't know if that's really a great look. It's not a great look, in all honesty, but it's hard to tell. 3 weeks ago, like I said, I could have told you that, he would probably would have stayed just because of the monetary aspect. Now, you're looking at a $5 to $6 million buyout. And I don't know if USF being, a group of 5 school that doesn't have as much money as even other schools around the G5, I don't know if they can cut that check to get rid of them.
All right, let's talk about this Friday. Let's go big picture first with this rivalry. So, how do the folks in Tampa, how do they perceive UCF these days? I know obviously UCF has been on a bit of a run the last couple of years, a little bit back down to earth this season with 3 losses. What's the perception across the interstate there of what's going on here at UCF?
I can tell you there were a ton of my Twitter was full after that loss to Tulsa. Especially those guys ate that up. But yeah, so jealousy is probably the best, word to say, just simply because of the fact that, they've seen the run that UCF has gone on over the last couple of years. And I know USF fans hate to admit it, but I think jealousy, just seeing what they've been able to do. And then conversely, looking at their program straight in the face and not seeing them make the same moves, not seeing their administration buy into the football team, not seeing, the community rally around the football team. And they see all that stuff going down I-4, and they really, I think it just sets in a bad taste in their mouth, because they see what USF could get to as a group of 5 school that really can make noise. But they know that until something, vastly changes, it's not going to happen. So I think jealousy is probably one of the best words to put. I think at the same time, too, they're kind of, there's also kind of a general state of malaise about just as a fan base as a whole. They see what UCF is doing and they're like, oh, okay, they've got 3 losses. They're right back down to earth. But and I think some people just are just kind of looking at this last game as a way to get out of the season more as opposed to a rivalry game. Just because they want to get out of the season that bad. They want to see Charlie Strong gone. But it's gonna be fierce still on Twitter. I mean, I've seen a ton of stuff. But I've also had a couple of fans come up to me and say that the rivalry has been tired over the last couple of years because of, what UCF has put together since the 2016 game where USF lost one. So I think it's kind of a mixed board of emotions. Some think that the rivalry is great. Some think it's not. But I think, jealousy and the jealousy factor probably is the biggest factor of them all.
How about from the player standpoint? I know obviously the players are going to tell you it's an important game. They want to win every game, right? Do you still get the sense that from the players' perspective, it's sort of a big rivalry matchup?
I think, yeah. In a sense, I mean, I think they know how much. This game means, and Joey Knight from the Tampa Bay Times said in particular that it's sort of a bowl game for USF since they're not going to have one since they're bowl ineligible. This kind of serves as a bowl game for them. It's their last game of the season. It's away from home. It's a big game in a lot of people's opinions. So I think the players realize it now. Is their focus so much on just trying to cut their losses before the end of the season? Yeah, maybe. But I think they still realize it's a pretty big game, and I think if they come in with the right attitude, they could come in and make a statement on the road. But they're going to have to play their best football to do so.
All right, let's talk on the field for a second. So I thought I heard Charlie Strong say at his presser this week that Cronkite and Sands are both out. Is that correct?
Yeah, Trayvon Sands and Jordan Cronkite are both going to be out. So that's your top 2 leading rushers for USF right now. Well, excuse me, not your top 2. Cronkite's your top at 687 yards, but Trayvon Sands is your 4th leading rusher, but he was serving as the backup to Cronkite. Gotcha.
And then you mentioned Jordan McLeod. So true freshman, he took over a little bit, then got back into injury. What does he do really well? So I know obviously he's a true freshman, and freshmen are going to make freshman mistakes. But what have you seen so far of him that you really like?
He's a redshirt freshman. First off, just to correct you there, no worries. A lot of people get it wrong. A lot of people think he's a true freshman because of the way that he's played at times. But a redshirt freshman from Plant, Tampa kid. What he does really well is he's able to escape pressure. And with the way that the USF's offensive line has been, he's needed to do that because the offensive line has been so shaky. He's been able to get out of the pocket, been able to make good decisions out of the pocket for the most part. Now, the other thing that he does really well, he's got a good deep ball. If the receivers are on the same page, they can make plays. They haven't made a lot this season. But Jordan's got a really pretty deep ball, the potential to have a really pretty deep ball. Not as good as Blake Barnett's was, I think. I think Blake had a better release and a better throw. But Jordan, being a redshirt freshman, only being 5'10", 5'11", he's got a pretty good arm from what I've seen so far. Pocket awareness, he's good. Like I said, he's good running. Pocket awareness, is good, but it's got to get better with that bad offensive line. Some of those sacks that he sustained against Temple, against Memphis were just sacks that, he should have thrown away or should have scrambled a little bit sooner. So his pocket awareness is getting there. But, the biggest piece is he's a mobile quarterback, and I think we all know, especially with what Mackenzie Milton did over the last couple of years, how good and how dangerous mobile quarterbacks can be.
How would you describe this offense? How is it different from what UCF fans saw last year?
At the beginning of the season, if you'd asked me that, I would have told you it's a lot more pass-oriented. And it's a lot more about the short passing game, getting guys in space, allowing them to make plays. Now it's transitioned to more of a run-first offense. And I say that because McLeod dropped back 2/3 of the time against Temple. I don't know off the top of my head what he did against Memphis. But against Memphis, too, there was a lot more of the run first with Kelly Joyner Jr., who's going to start at UCF on Friday. So he's, it's a lot more of a run first offense. The 6-game stretch where USF went 4-2 between the South Carolina State game and the East Carolina game. USF ran the ball 59% of the time as opposed to passing it for 41. So it's a run-first offense, which is a little bit similar to last year. But there are still elements of that short passing game, a lot of bubble screens, a lot of hitch routes, a lot of short passing routes. But then what that does is, if USF can execute that offense correctly, is then it allows a ball over the top. Then it allows, someone to get free. There's a lot of different wrinkles in there. There's been a lot of wildcat quarterback sets. With Jacquez Evans when he came in at times at quarterback. So there's some wrinkles in there, but it's at its base, it's a run first with a lot of short passes to try and get guys in space and get guys to make plays in the open field.
How about on the defensive side of the ball? So, it seems that the D line is probably the strength of the defense. Who are some names for UCF fans to know about on the defensive side?
Greg Reeves and Kirk Livingstone, are guys that have been around for a long time. Both are graduate students. Both have been, they played a lot of ball. Kirk Livingstone has kind of moved inside to the defensive tackle spot, so he's spent a good bit of time there. Greg Reeves has kind of played more of a stand-up outside backer role as opposed to defensive end for a good bit of the season. Aside from that, on the line, Darius Slade, who's a transfer from Arizona State via Ohio State, actually transferred twice. Darius, it's crazy, these transfers these days. It's hard to keep up with them. Darius Slade, he's got a couple of sacks. He's looked pretty nice so far this year. But USF runs a lot of blitz schemes. A lot of different looks. They'll stand up three, or they'll have three guys with their hands in the dirt and have five at the second level, or they'll have Reeves standing up on the outside linebacker role. At the linebacker spot, Patrick Macon, don't know if he's going to play or not yet. He's been battling an ankle injury. He's a leading tackler last time I checked. Dwayne Boyles and Antonio Greer Jr., who play opposite of Macon, have looked really good. Two sophomore linebackers that have stepped up big time this year in place of a Nico Sautel, who's been battling a neck injury and who hasn't played at all this season. And then in the secondary, honestly, I think the secondary is probably the best unit, which is why this game is really intriguing to me, because I know especially how Gabe Davis and Gabriel have really connected this year, just watching a little bit of the UCF film. KJ Sales, who's probably the top cornerback now, North Carolina transfer that came in. He's a Bay Area kid, grew up in Gibsonton, which is about 20 minutes away from Tampa. He's probably turned into the top corner. He's got a couple of picks this year. Really good press corner. Opposite of him is Mike Hampton, another Bay Area kid. Really, really good press corner. And then a guy like Devin Studstill at strong safety, who's really fits well into those run gaps, those run blitzes that Brian John Marie likes to do so much. He's been really, really good coming up in those. So Devin Studstill, a Notre Dame transfer, he's played a lot of ball. And then next to him, Nick Roberts, the free safety, another guy who's, a kind of a big play type of guy, really good in coming up in the run blitz. And then what ties it all together is Bentley Sanders, the nickelback, who is kind of the glue of that whole unit. As USF kind of runs a 4-2-5 the majority of the time. Really, really good in the kick return game, especially, but he's pretty good in limiting guys at the slot. Can do a lot of different things, especially over the middle of the field. He can play safety or corner. So, you say give me a couple of defensive guys, I probably just about gave you all of them, because the defense has been really, really good this year. And it's kind of ironic to say they've been really, really good when they're 4-7. But the defense has stood up and played some really, really good ball, especially between that East Carolina, Temple, and Cincinnati stretch.
You mentioned the kicking game. Obviously, some struggles. Some struggles there. Who's the plan going forward? I know a bunch of missed field goals against Cincinnati. How good do you feel about the kicking game going into this one?
I feel good about it if it's within about 45 yards, something of that nature. 40 to 45 is kind of where I'm sitting at right now. And the reason why I say that is because Kobe Weiss, who was the starting kicker last year, he was replaced because he got injured with a slip disc in his back against, I want to say that was before the Navy game. He's back in action. He took the starting job back over Spencer Schrader, who missed 4 against Cincinnati, including the go-ahead. So Weiss, his range, his career long is 38, which was last year. I've seen him hit from 40. I've seen him hit from 45 these days. Almost at a 43-yarder against Memphis, but hooked it right. So I feel good with him. He's especially in a late game situation. He's 6 for 6 in his career, under 2 minutes to go in the second quarter or at the end of the game. So I feel good with him if it were to come down to that. But yeah, as you mentioned, the kicking game against Cincinnati was absolutely woeful.
Yeah, we needed you to win that one. So you had a bunch of fans in the Orlando area hoping you'd make one of those. So Friday night primetime game, obviously. What do you expect from a crowd perspective? Are a lot of fans traveling down to watch the game in person?
Not entirely sure, actually. I know there's always a good bit of fans that like to come out, especially that game. I know it's obviously the closest one that USF will play all season. So I don't know how many tickets were allotted to them, in all honesty. I know last time USF played at Spectrum, it was a decent crowd of USF fans, if I remember correctly. They kind of got stuck in a corner, if I remember right. But, yeah, I'd expect a couple of thousand just because of the rivalry aspect. I think it would be less probably than 2017, just because of the fact that they're not showing up to the home games. But I think there'll be a good couple of thousand at Spectrum on Friday night.
All right, I hate to ask for predictions because none of us really know what the hell's going to happen. But so answer this question for me instead. If USF is going to win this game, they're going to have to do what?
Play their best football. The offense is going to have to play their best football all season. Jordan McLeod is going to have to play to this point, and we'll use this term again at some point. I'm already sure of it. Jordan McLeod is going to have to play the game of his life. Because UCF puts up points. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, UCF is put up 30 in the last 2 and 40 in the last 5, actually, right? Between ECU, Temple. I mean, UCF puts up points. So you've got to be able to match that, even with what the defense has put together. So in order for USF to win, they've got to be able to put up points. That means McLeod is going to have a clean game with no interceptions, can't turn the ball over. Kelly Joyner Jr. is going to have to have the game of his life. I'm using this term a lot on purpose. But Kelly Joyner Jr. is going to have the game of his life. Jordan McLeod's going to have the game of his life. A lot of true freshmen, or Joyner's a true freshman. McLeod's a redshirt freshman, so they'll have to have really good games. The receivers are going to have to step up. Mitch Wilcox, the tight end, that's an NFL draft prospect. He's going to have to get more than one target. He had one target against Memphis, and he's the guy. He's the leading receiver. Everybody loves him. At USF, everybody thinks he's the greatest and one of the greatest tight end prospects to come out. One of the greatest offensive prospects to come out. Bay Area kid from Tarpon Springs. A lot of people have a lot of respect for him, but he got targeted one time against Memphis. I mean, it's been painstaking to see just how underused he's been in the receiving game. So I think he's got to be used a lot more. I think Randall St. Felix has got to be used a lot more. Bryce Miller's kind of disappeared. So I think the guys at USF, they've challenged their wide receivers the last couple of weeks between St. Felix and Miller, and Xavier Weaver, Eddie McDoom, the Michigan transfer. Eddie McDoom's another guy for, Michigan transfer. Everybody thought he was going to have to, he was going to do a great job this season. But, he's had a tough go. So 12 catches, 149 yards. Hasn't been very productive. So I think he's got to have a really good game. I just think the offense as a whole is going to have to play the game of the season to match the amount of points that UCF has put up the last month and a half, really.
Again, this is Will Turner. You can find him at bulls247.com. He's the publisher of that site there. Will, man, I appreciate you taking some time to join us to preview the game this week. Best of luck to you guys moving forward and in the off season, and hopefully we can catch up again soon.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on.
Spice up your company with homemade marketing services from Tasty Gravy Creative. Tasty Gravy serves up a menu of budget-friendly marketing, graphic design, and public relations services customized to your specific goals. Co-owned by a UCF graduate, Tasty Gravy can help refresh your brand, strengthen your online presence, or reinforce your company's message. Contact Tasty Gravy for help with your website, social media, marketing, advertising materials, and more. Visit tastygravy.com.
Island H2O Live, a new wave of water park.
Experience the next generation of fun at Island H2O Live. You choose the music, you choose the lighting, and you choose where to share your memorable moments at Florida's newest and most immersive water park.
Island H2O Live.
Now open in Kissimmee, located off US 192 and State Road 429 on Inspiration Boulevard.
Island H2O Live.
All right, 5 things that you probably already know but may have forgotten but are still funny to talk about coming up with UCF Mike. But before we get to that, American Coaches Conference call this week. Again, our guy on the spot, Trylko, was able to hop on and ask a few questions of Coach Charlie Strong. And he started off by asking Charlie sort of what happened in the Memphis game. And we just heard a little bit about the offensive struggles. So Trace asked Coach Strong, what happened on the offensive side against Memphis?
Coach, earlier you mentioned struggling on offense this game Saturday, 5 first downs, 3 of 15 on third down. Well, what contributed to the struggles against Memphis?
Well, what we have to do is we had to be very balanced. And we want to balance it all, because when you allow a team to make you one-dimensional, then they're able to just come and make plays. Early in the game we was running the ball well, and we just got to continue to just know what our strengths are and then improve upon our weaknesses. And when you're looking at Memphis game, it was more, we didn't get the first downs, and then when you have a chance to go score, you got to take advantage of those opportunities.
So the old know your strengths and know your weaknesses routine. Again, you heard from from Will Turner on from 24/7 Bulls247.com. Obviously, it sounds like the Cows would prefer to run the ball, and Charlie kind of alludes to it there. And once the score kind of gets out of control, at this point you're playing from behind and you're going to have to throw the football. It sounds like that hasn't been a strength of the Cows, particularly with Jordan McLeod on at quarterback. And Will Turner mentioned only one target for Mitchell Wilcox, who is they're supposed to be their big play tight end. So Charlie's obviously referencing some of the game getting away from them, and you wonder if the same recipe can hold true this upcoming week as well too. So if that's going to happen, though, we're going to need a big game from our quarterback Dylan Gabriel. And so Trace was curious to what Coach Charlie Strong, who's made his bones as a coach on the defensive side. Trace was curious what Coach Strong has seen in Dylan Gabriel, and so let's hear how that turned out.
When you study UCF on film, what impresses you most about Dylan Gabriel and the way he leads the offense?
Well, the thing about him is he's just got so many guys that have around him that are big play players. I mean, you look at on offense with the receivers, you look at Davis, what he's done, Nixon's what he's done, and then with the running backs, with Killings, with Anderson, they play 4 or 5 running backs there. and they have a veteran offensive line. So he's been able to just, put the ball where he's supposed to, manage the offense, and he's done a great job with it.
Interesting. That question obviously was about Dillon Gabriel, but Charlie took the opportunity to talk more about some of the other guys, the receivers and the running backs, the offensive line, and really kind of said Dillon's done a nice job of managing the offense. I'm not sure if that's meant to be a knock or if that's accurate. I mean, I do think there is some measure of truth into what Dillon's been able to do to keep the offense on track. But curious how Charlie kind of phrased that answer there. But ultimately, obviously, I think that's a true answer in some respects. Of Dillon's strongest when the weapons around him are clicking and he's getting the ball out and making the plays too. So certainly Charlie has recognized that, and we'll see how the defense from the Cows can scheme that up. One additional question that came during this media conference call. So if you recall last year after the game, Charlie Strong made some comments about really how the Cows had to close the gap, how UCF had kind of gotten out ahead of them, and how they need to close the gap. And here we are, 364 days later, and obviously the Cows are again looking at a 4-7 season, and have obviously struggled from that perspective. UCF, while not undefeated as they were last year and the year prior, still has had a lot of success and is certainly going to a bowl game this year. And so the question was asked of Charlie Strong if they had indeed closed that gap on UCF, and or what they needed to do to do that. I thought his answer was interesting, so I want you guys to hear how Charlie responded to that question.
Well, we have to close it, Nathan. And what we got to do is that, right now with our guys, I mean, we have improved with size. We have speed, but still, though, what they're playing with now is they're playing with an older team than what we have. Because you look at them up front, the offensive line, I think 3 out of 4 starters or 3 out of 5 are seniors. I know they got a freshman quarterback, but they have guys that have played a lot of football. And that's what we got to continue to do with our team. And I don't know how far off we are, but we know on this we got to get better than what we are.
So it's interesting. First of all, I'm not sure if Charlie was eating a sandwich during that because it sounded like he was chewing on something there. It's interesting commentary if you think about kind of his answer. And his answer is, I don't know if it's just to discount and say, well, hey, UCF is doing well because they're older. Certainly that's, in some respects, sure, we do have some experience on our team, but, obviously we've got a lot of youth playing as well when you think about Dillon Gabriel, Bino Thompson, certainly on the defensive side of the ball, we're playing a lot of young guys. We saw Tremont Morris-Brash, Randy Charlton, Eric Gilliard. I mean, these are guys who are sophomores and under at this point. And so there certainly is a youth movement on that front as well too. But at least kudos to the reporter who asked that question to kind of hold Charlie to where have you been. And so, as we talked about earlier, we'll see what that means for Coach Strong and his fate. I know a lot of folks are talking about this as a bowl game type of experience for the Cows. So we'll see kind of what they show up like on Friday night. One thing that's for sure though is Friday night will be a special night for obviously for everybody there, but there'll be a handful of guys who are going to run out for senior night and really for the last time at the Bounce House, get a chance to play in front of Night Nation. And so a little bonus extra sound for you this week. We've got a couple of guys who were asked in their media availability this upcoming week, or this past week rather, about how this game will play for them. So I want to play a couple of clips on that for you too. The first one is going to come from Adrian Killens, and Adrian was asked a little bit about sort of the experience and what he expects to see once the game starts on Friday. And I want you to hear a little bit about what AK had to say with that.
It means a lot. I know a lot of guys that play for USF, and they know me and whatnot. And I play high school ball with some of them and played against some of them in high school as well. So it's all about respect. We're going to get that just Friday night, and may the best man win.
All right, in the next clip, AK was asked to talk a little bit about, if there's any extra motivation or sort of what the motivation is coming into this game, obviously, particularly for his last game, wearing the black and gold at home. And here was a little bit about on his thoughts about what that motivation looks like.
It's very motivating, simply because they're coming to our house and they're honest and they probably in for a rude awakening, because Zombie Nation is going to be rocking. It's been a long time coming since we've been at the Bounce House, and USF is coming in. It's a rival, and it's going to be rocking. I can't wait.
All right, last from AK here. So there's obviously some thoughts that look, this is kind of like a de facto bowl game for the Cows. Being 4-7, they're not bowl eligible. They won't be going to a bowl game this season, and so AK was asked kind of what is he expecting to see on Friday night from the field, and what do you expect to see from the Cows, and here's kind of what his thoughts were on that.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Like you said, they don't have a bowl game to play for. It's the last game of the season, so they're going to lay their hearts on the line out there. They got some Sears on their team as well, so this is going to be the last game of their college career. So they're going to do everything they can to get a win and go into this game and just embrace the moment. So they're going to be playing just as hard as we are. We're going to be playing just as hard as they are.
All right, next to take the microphone is Anthony Roberson, who is coming off a big game against Tulane, his first career catch, his first career touchdown. Obviously, those are big moments, and so cool to see him get a chance to get in front of the media and answer some questions. Obviously, he's a big part of the community efforts at UCF, and seems like such a really good kid. And so he was kind of asked the same thing: is what needs to happen on Friday night, and what do the Knights need to do to come out with a win, and sort of what he's expecting. And let's listen into what he had to say. He did a nice job with his answer.
It's everything, The team from West Florida comes and they try to take everything away from us, and they try to be, our rivals, and we got to step up on them. And we need our student section there going crazy for us. This is my last game, Jordan's last game, all the seniors' last game in the bounce house, and we want to show out. And we need all the students there to come out there and support us. All
right, and now being the last game of the season at home, senior night, A-Rob was asked to kind of talk a little bit about what it's like to experience this as kind of his last game and how he wants to go out. And here's what he had to say about that.
It's the perfect way to go out. I couldn't think of a better way to go out at home in front of a packed crowd against our rivals from West Florida. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait. It's going to be an awesome experience for us.
I mean, overall, kudos to A-Rob for the double West Florida drop. I think that probably makes those two clips. But it just goes to show you, how much this game means to the seniors. Again, the win streak at home. They haven't lost at home in 20-something straight games at this point. So defending home turf is huge. Obviously, doing it against your rivals even bigger. On a Friday night, ESPN primetime game. I don't think there's any other games that are going to be on at that point in time. So they'll have the audience at large, at their disposal, and really a chance to end their careers at home on a high note, and hopefully, seal a good bowl position going in here to the bowl season. So it should be a fun one again. Always throw out the records when these two teams get together, and hopefully UCF will come out with another win as always. But before we get to close this thing out, you're gonna stick around for the next part here. UCF Mike will hop in here. 5 things you need to know about the Cows. And I can assure you we'll talk about the name, the school, and you might even get a DeSoto State reference. You're going to want to figure out what we're talking about. Stick around.
You've heard us talk about the great food at our good friend Kyle Israel's restaurant, the Little Greek Fresh Grill. The Little Greek now has franchises available. Please call 407-697-2272. That's 407-697-2272 to see what the Little Greek can do for you. Also, check out the Little Greek's newest location at 6536 Old Brick Road in Windermere, Florida. The Little Greek Fresh Grill. Fresh, flavorful, fabulous.
All right, Knightline Extra rolls on with the star of the Sons of UCF program. It is the one and only UCF Mike. He joins me here each week. We reunite to tell you 5 things that you need to know about our upcoming opponent. Mike, sometimes these are easier or sometimes these are harder. When it's the Cows, it's actually pretty easy because we know a lot about them, having obviously faced them a ton and the geography distance away. So not a lot you might not already know, but still some fun stuff to kind of regroup on here, Mike. So let's kick it off. I'll let you do the honors this week. What's the first thing that people need to know about the Cows?
Well, we got to figure out how they got that name. So many people are wondering, how on earth a team located in Tampa, Florida, could have the name University of South Florida? Well, it all started back in 1957. It wasn't exactly a smooth process, and they had a whole bunch of names to pick from. Some of them were Florida Gulf Coast University, which does exist now, Florida West Coast University, University of Southwest Florida. They also had other ideas that were supported by various organizations and boards, including Tampa Bay University of Florida, DeSoto State University, Temple Terrace University, Sunshine State University, Florida Peninsula University, FPU, Citrus State University. Eventually, the Board of Control members selected Southwestern Florida University, which wasn't supported. So then they shortened that to USF. And according to the Cal's official website, the name made sense because the school was at the time the southernmost public university in the state. University of Miami was already founded, but it was a private school, and its location wasn't taken into account. Then, Governor Leroy Collins admitted the name didn't really appeal to him, and there were many who protested. Alas, the name stayed, and over time it has allowed USF to look even dumber.
If you could rename them now, Mike, which of these, there's a lot of winners on this list. Which of these names might you go with today?
DeSoto State?
I kind of like DeSoto State, too. The DSDU.
Florida Peninsula.
Yeah.
Peninsula University.
I also kind of like Tampa Bay University of Florida because it just makes no sense. So I kind of like that one, too.
I'm trying to see which one of these acronyms would be. Like, there's no Sam Houston Institute of Technology.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of good options. Good on you folks at Governor Leroy Collins and all the folks who were a part of that 1957 naming committee for the fine efforts that you put into naming this particular school. And then no one, by the way, said finally once they opened like FAU or FIU, no one was like, hey, we should change this. Nobody, anybody, Bueller, anybody, nobody was like, hey, now.
Nobody, when they looked at the map and saw, hey, we're not that far south. There's still like a few hundred miles south of us, so maybe we should think about something else.
I was going to look up for this research, to see if the Cows actually had a geography department on campus, but I forgot because I think that'd be even funnier. All right, so here's fact number 2 while we're on names. One stupid name to the next. Why are they called the Bulls? In 1962, the students selected the name the Golden Brahmin as their official nickname because they considered Florida a cattle-raising state, which is similar to Texas. And so they wanted a mascot similar to the Texas Longhorns. In the late 1980s, the name evolved and then turned into the Bulls. So let's fact check this really quickly, Mike. I've been to Tampa a handful of times, and I didn't remember seeing it overrun with livestock. So I fact checked this for a second. So if you go to the website beeftolive.com, Texas is indeed, Mike, the top state in the U.S. right now with over 13 million cattle. Not surprising, right? However, Florida comes in at number 19 with only 1.68 million cattle. So literally, the Cows chose a name because they like another school and actually doesn't fit their school at all, which really means that the Cows just continue to do what cows will do. So in essence, Cows probably is the perfect name for these particular people.
Well, these guys have been this way forever now. All they do is copy other people. They copied the Longhorn hand signal to go along with it. They copied basically everything in their program has just been a copy of it. They copied the Florida State chant. They spell out South Florida like Florida State does. There's a million other examples. And whatever. I hate this school so much that...
that is also a fact, but not one of the 5 facts that you'd need to know.
All right. Well, this one is number 3. This game marks the 11th meeting between the schools, with the Cows leading the series 6-4. The Cows won the first 4 meetings between 2005 and 2008, and then the teams did not play for the next 4 years. But since then, they resumed the series. UCF is 4-2, including winning the last 2 games. So why did the school stop playing between 2008 and 2013? Well, a few factors. The Cows stated that they were looking to play more competitive games because they were ranked number 2 one time for 1 week. They're still hanging on to that one, too. Another reason lies at the feet of former Cal University president Judy Genshaft. The Cows were playing in the Big East at the time, and several reports were published that Genshaft consistently tried to keep UCF out of the Big East. Perhaps not coincidentally, the Big East Football Conference got disbanded amid conference realignment, and the Cows found themselves on the outside. In 2013, both schools joined the newly formed American Conference, and thus the series was renewed. There have been some memorable moments and plays over the years. And my favorite one probably is the Jordan Ozerite's interception to seal the first win in 2013. I told that story on here before. The Mike Hughes kick return is also another big one. Don't forget, Wilcox still had the fumble after that play. Unfortunately, we have the 64-12 blemish. But we also have this shutout, the only shutout in series history, when we shut them out in Raymond James Stadium 16-0. And another bad moment was the KZ injury last year. So we're actually building up a lot of history in these first 10 games. And still plenty more to come.
It's actually not even really his first, 10 games. I mean, the first couple of ones we actually didn't play very well at all. So, it's always fun when you have a rivalry game, right? They always say throw the records out when you're playing a rival. And so, definitely the Cows want to do that this year because their record sucks. Speaking of other things that suck about the Cows, they are struggling on the financial side of their department, and this is the fourth fact. Let's start with their facilities, Mike. The Cows, as you might know, they do not have an indoor practice facility. And so they were looking for about $40 million to open a new football center, which would include that practice facility and hopefully a new weight room, since reportedly the Cows shared their weight room with both the volleyball team and the soccer teams. The Cows announced the project in 2017, and almost 2 years later, they only have raised about $20 million. So the initial plan was to break ground in 2019, but that's not happening. So now they pushed it back to 2020 while they try to raise the other $20 million. The Cows also lack an on-campus football stadium, and while it's been discussed, University President Steve Currell, maybe, has stated that there are no plans in the future for the stadium. A feasibility study was conducted, and they decided that the stadium they want is probably going to run about $240 million, which they don't have. Then there's also the status of current head coach Charlie Strong, who has been the subject of job rumors for most of the season based on his record. If he's fired, the Cows would owe him about $2 million on his contract, plus whatever is needed to buy out the rest of his staff. Then they would need money to buy out their new coach of his contract and probably need to pay that person about $2 million of annual salary. Eventually, getting rid of Charlie would cost about $5 million. All of this means the future certainly looks bright over there at DeSoto State University.
The Cows are, it just hit me. The Cows are that guy who claims that your girlfriend's ugly and stuff, right? They talk trash about our stadium, yet they don't have one of their own. They're never going to get one because they're holding out for Scarlett Johansson or somebody. Yeah. And then they plan them. That's what their plan is. That they're going to land Scarlett Johansson. It's never going to happen. Their stadium's never going to happen. They don't have enough fans to raise any money, and they're just going to be stuck paying rent for the next 20 years and claiming it's a good thing.
That's true. That is true. Great job on the ScarJo reference, though. Way to go.
Oh, yeah, she's one of my faves.
Yeah.
All right. Thing number 5. The Cows are 4-7 on the season. Their wins this year come against South Carolina State, UConn, BYU, and East Carolina. They haven't exactly been a juggernaut on offense. In 5 of their 7 losses, they've scored 10 points or less. On offense, they got freshman Jordan McLeod. He's taken over at quarterback. He has 12 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. He's also rushed for 4 touchdowns. They still have their running back Jordan Cronkite, but he's going to be out this game. He has almost 700 yards and 4 touchdowns. Trevon Sands also has gotten some Ks. Is he playing this week?
He's also out, I believe.
So they've got nobody now left at running back. One caveat, all 3 of these guys have missed time with injuries. And like we just said, they're going to be out this week again. So if USF actually finds someone to throw the football, it will likely be to tight end Mitchell Wilcox, famously known for fumbling at the end of the 2017 game. They also have wide receiver Randall St. Felix and wide receiver Bryce Miller. Also to note, speedy running back Johnny Ford was suspended indefinitely earlier this season and is unlikely to be reinstated for this one. On defense, Dwayne Boyles and Kirk Livingstone will put pressure on the quarterback, and defensive back KJ Sales has 3 interceptions on the year. On special teams, they have used 2 kickers, and they've gotten combined 7 for 14 on field goals. In fact, they missed 4 field goals in one game against Cincinnati, the one time we were actually rooting for them to win. And all of this tells us one thing: these guys suck. And we're gonna kick the crap out of them on Friday night.
Again, these are all facts, folks. We can't lie in these. These are facts, and that's what they are, Mike. So hopefully, again, it's always fun to have a rivalry game. It's even funner when you curb stomp your rival, and hopefully that's what happens this upcoming week against the Cows, Friday, Spectrum Stadium, 8 p.m. I think it's on ABC, Mike, this year, or is it ESPN?
I believe it's ESPN.
It's ESPN. So if you're not able to get out to the Bounce House and root on your team for senior nights, at least tune in on ESPN and enjoy the game. Hopefully they'll enjoy a sound UCF win, and we'll recap it when we reconvene on the Sons of UCF next week, as always. But Mike, I appreciate you coming in here and giving us 5 things that we probably already knew, but it was good to reminisce about on our good friends, the DeSoto State Golden Brahmins.
Yeah, I cannot wait for this game. The one thing we have not done, we've shut them out. We've beat them now a few times. We have not blown them out, and we owe them for that 2007 game. We cannot win by enough points in this game to make me happy. I want 80. I want 100. I want to just completely destroy these guys, and I never want to hear them open their mouths again. That's what I want. I want to shut down their program. I want the result of this game is for them to just close up shop, say we're never getting a stadium. We're just going to stop playing football.
Okay. I don't disagree. That would be, I don't think, has that ever happened? I don't know. We should check that. But hopefully when they tune back in, and talk to us this week, Mike, it'll be, to celebrate the shutdown of the Cal football program. But, until then, Mike, you enjoy your holiday weekend, buddy, and we'll catch up next week.
All right, man. Talk to you later.
Oviedo Brewing Company is the hottest microbrewery in Central Florida. Located 7 miles from UCF at the Oviedo Mall, this 8,800 square foot brewery just opened its doors 6 months ago and has already crafted 13 unique beer flavors and counting in their tap room. The tap room contains different styles of beverages, including ciders, wines, and craft sodas. Not only do they have amazing beers, they also have a full kitchen with gourmet pizzas, wings, and tacos. Oviedo Brewing has activities for each day of the week, such as Taco Tuesdays, Trivia Wednesdays, Pizza and Pint on Thursdays, plus live music on Friday and Saturday evening. But the best is Sunday brunch with unlimited beer mimosas. Need a spot for game day? Oviedo Brewing is just the place with their large TVs to catch all the live games. You will also find Oviedo Brewing at UCF tailgating sampling beers. And OBC support for the Knights doesn't stop there. If you need a spot for UCF away games, come to Oviedo Brewing Company. You can get all the details on their Instagram or Facebook page. Follow them at Oviedo Brewing CO. Download the Untapped app, and you can find out what beers are on tap. The food menu is also available on their website, oviedobrewingco.com.
All right, the last regular season edition of the Knightline Extra has come to a close. I need to thank everybody who participated in this extravaganza. First and foremost, let me thank Will Turner from Bulls247.com for hopping in and giving us some insight on what to expect. Again, we heard a couple of contributions from Trace Trylko, so all the sound you hear, Trace works super hard to get you all that sound. He goes to practices, he goes to media availabilities where he can, he goes to games and gets sound, he hops on the conference call. So Trace, we appreciate all you do to bring that sound to Night Nation. Hopefully everybody enjoyed hearing some of that stuff. Again, UCF Mike joined me, and as he does always, to give you 5 things that you need to know about the opponent. So my big thanks to UCF Mike. Obviously, the Grand Poobah, the El Jefe of the Knightline Sports Network, Mr. Andrew Phegley, for putting all this together and getting it out to Night Nation so they can hopefully get primed and ready. Not that you need to get primed and ready any more than usual, but get primed and ready for the game as well. No matter what happens, again, you can count on all of us here at the Knightline Sports Network to keep you up to date and to give you analysis, breakdowns, fun stuff that we learn, a full slate of material and content available for you. It kicks off Sunday morning, 580 ESPN Radio, 9 a.m. Andrew Phegley and a host of others will be there to break down the game. Sunday night, you can listen on the Knightline Sports Network feed on your podcast feeds for the flagship Knightline show. Tuesday night, you can expect to hear myself and UCF Mike on the Sons of UCF. Wednesday night, you can listen in for Jeff Allen from the AAC Report. And then maybe Thursday night-ish, we'll see about Knightline Extras or Knightline Nows, depending upon what is happening in Knightline land. So nowhere else you're going to find multiple nights a week of UCF coverage. All the good folks at Knightline Sports Network, happy to do it. Glad we can provide that content for you. Hopefully you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed doing it for everybody here. Until then, let's go. Let's go win another one here. Let's close the regular season out with with a bang, and let's send those cows limping back across I-4 for a whole nother year. Until then, we'll talk to everybody soon. Go Knights. Charge on.